My sister had just flown back home when my husband, Mark, handed me a divorce agreement, telling me our marriage was done for good. My heart felt like it was ripping apart, but through the agony, I signed it. Then, while I was expecting his baby, I ended up marrying his sworn enemy. 4 years down the line, he glanced at our kid, a tiny replica of himself, and called his rival Dad. His eyes flashed red. The pregnancy test had shown 2 lines. Just as I was about to feel some joy, Mark slapped a piece of paper in my face. Lily, let's call it quits. Sign this agreement and you'll get an extra 20 million. I stared at the sharp-dressed, icy-faced man in front of me, unable to nod. Mark was losing his patience. When we tied the knot, we signed a contract. Our marriage was set for 3 years, ending in a month. If I didn't agree now, the contract would automatically expire in a month. But then I wouldn't get a single penny of the extra 20 million. I took a deep breath. Mark, what if I told you I'm pregnant? I admitted, feeling desperate. Even at this point, I was trying to use the baby to hold Mark onto me. His family didn't have many heirs, so maybe for the sake of the child, he'd drop the divorce. But Mark's next words froze me. I had a vasectomy. The kid can't be mine. My mouth opened, but no sound escaped. Mark was my only man. If it wasn't his, whose was it? When someone doubts you, no explanation helps. Mark left. I stared blankly at the divorce papers. My marriage to Mark was a mess. 3 years ago, the person supposed to marry Mark was my sister, but she left the country right before the wedding to chase true love, keeping the alliance between our families intact. My family had me marry in her place. Mark's family agreed for the sake of appearances. I'd had a crush on Mark for 7 years, so I didn't refuse. The only one unhappy was Mark. I didn't know what other couples' wedding nights were like, but on mine, Mark threw me a contract, the same 3-year marriage deal. After 3 years, no matter what I wanted, the marriage would end automatically. I felt lost and hurt back then, but I didn't give up. I thought if I treated Mark right, he'd warm up to me. My sister was abroad, and I was by his side. One day, Mark would see my worth. For 3 years, I took care of him meticulously. He had stomach issues, so I learned recipes. He had headaches and trouble sleeping, so I studied acupuncture. In hindsight, I was too naive. Who would fall for a nanny? Forget it. We were just torturing each other. I trembled, trying to sign the divorce papers. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was my mom. Lily? Your sister's back. She's on the afternoon flight tonight. Come home with Mark for a family dinner. My mom sounded unusually happy. I replied, my voice hoarse. Why did she come back all of a sudden? My mom sighed. I always thought that guy was no good, but your sister insisted on marrying him. Sure enough, after they wed, his true colors showed. He was cheating even when your sister was pregnant, leading to her miscarriage. She's back, so she must have figured it out. That's good, right? Don't bring up the past when you see her. Don't upset her. My mom kept talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. I suddenly realized why Mark was so eager for a divorce. Anna was back. My head spun, flooded with strange thoughts. I felt like I was living in a book. Anna was the main character, and I was just a supporting role. I fell for Mark and married him but gave up when the heroine returned. Later, Anna couldn't have kids. I gave up my child to them and watched them live as a happy family. I was stunned. Was I losing it? In that moment, I realized I no longer loved Mark. I put down the pen, refusing to sign. Why should I step aside just because Anna's back and let them have their happy ending? Before the divorce, I'd make them uncomfortable, be the villainous supporting character. I took a cab to Lily's house. Mark and Anna arrived together. Anna looked more worn out than she did 3 years ago. Not as lively, but still the center of attention wherever she went. Dad and Mom surrounded her with concern. It had rained. Anna was dry, but Mark's sleeve was soaked. I could picture him shielding her under the umbrella, letting the rain soak him instead. With Mark, he always led while I followed. People can't be compared, right? I pushed down my disappointment and walked up to Mark, worried. Babe, how did your clothes get wet? I clung to Mark's arm affectionately. Anna's gaze flicked over, her eyes empty. Mark tried to pull away, but I hugged him tight. Your clothes are wet, you'll catch a cold. You're the backbone of the company. You can't get sick. Let's go upstairs and change. Watching the vein pulse on his forehead, I saw his struggle to stay composed, still trying to keep his image as a husband. He followed me upstairs. Once we were in the room, he shoved me away. Stop clinging to me. You're my wife. Why can't I hold your arm? Mark took a deep breath. Did you sign the divorce agreement? No, I'm pregnant. I told you I had a vasectomy. Are you sure the doctor didn't scam you? You're the only man I've been with these 3 years. Don't try to weasel out of it, I said coldly. Mark looked at me with a furious face. Lily, what happened to you? For the past 3 years, I've always been the perfect wife and mother in front of Mark, gentle and considerate, always listening to him. He's never seen me this harsh and prickly. In reality, the gentle and considerate me was just a facade. I'm the type who never lets things go. If I can't make him fall for me, I'll make sure he bleeds. I need to make up for these years of humility and pain. I folded my arms and looked at him. What's wrong with me? At least I'm better than someone who doesn't even recognize his own pants? Mark was so angry he couldn't even speak. Downstairs, I switched back to being gentle. I sat next to Mark, acting cute. Babe, I want some fish, but it's too far. Can you get it for me? Honey, my water's empty. Get me more, please. I kept bossing Mark around. Mark and Anna both looked upset. Maybe Anna realized that the guy who used to follow her around is now someone else's husband. Anna made an excuse about being tired and went upstairs halfway through dinner. Mark couldn't take it anymore and went to the bathroom. Lily, your sister just went through a breakup. Acting like that with Mark might upset her. My mom scolded me quietly. I almost laughed. This family has always revolved around Anna. When Anna ran away, they made me marry in her place, never caring about my happiness. Now that Anna's back, she's all they care about. They don't think there's anything wrong with my husband being nice to Anna. Anna's like the main character of this world, and with her around, I'm always just a background character. No one cares about me. No one thinks about me. I should have been used to it by now. I lifted my head, hiding the sadness in my eyes, with a pitiful look. Mom and Dad, I'm pregnant. That's why? Before I could finish, I suddenly heard the sound of glass breaking. Raising my head, I saw Anna standing there, empty-handed, her face filled with shock. Mark ran out of the bathroom, grabbed my hand, and rushed us out. Back home, Mark glared at me furiously. I really am pregnant. Isn't it worth mentioning? Ignoring Mark's murderous glare, I went to the bathroom, recalling Anna's shock and Mark's anger. I suddenly felt a strange satisfaction. Maybe I do have a knack for playing the villainess after all. The next day, I slept in until it was bright outside. It was already 8 o'clock. I walked out of the bedroom and saw Mark sitting on the sofa, looking furious. Mark's a really picky guy. Even with his coffee, normally, I'd prep his breakfast and coffee for him, but now, I didn't feel like catering to him. Sleeping in felt great. Hungry? I asked. Mark didn't answer, but his stomach growled. He'll order some food. Mark looked at me in disbelief. Before the delivery arrived, Mark slammed the door and left. I couldn't help but give myself a thumbs up. Good thing I didn't order for him. In the afternoon, while getting a spa treatment, I got a call from Mark's assistant. Lily, the company cafeteria food doesn't suit Mark's tastes, so he hasn't eaten. Oh, right, I always took care of his lunch too. Over the years, I've spoiled him with my cooking. Anything else he barely touches. Don't worry, when he's starving, he'll eat. In the evening, I suddenly received a message, a picture sent by Anna. The man in the photo with the high nose bridge and sharp profile was Mark. She quickly retracted it. Sorry, wrong send, Anna texted. I ignored her. My sister always gets what she wants with a flick of her finger. Now she's using these tactics. I wasn't sad, rather, I was quite happy. In the photo, Mark was sitting in front of a big pot of spicy hot pot. Mark's stomach isn't great. Skipping breakfast and lunch, then having hot pot for dinner, that's a death sentence. Mark doesn't eat spicy food, but Anna loves it. Mark accommodating her would definitely come at a cost. I had a wonderful sleep. Sure enough, when I woke up, my phone had dozens of missed calls. The messages were all from Mark's assistant. Lily, Mark's been hospitalized. I slowly got up and made some porridge. After eating breakfast, I took the leftover porridge to the hospital. Mark was in a VIP room. I had barely reached the door when I saw Mark sitting on the bed, face pale, looking toward the door, expectantly. When he saw me, his face turned sour and he looked away. I walked in. Lily, your assistant quickly took the things from my hands. Mark was so eager to see you. Mark seems to have been looking forward, but not for me. This porridge smells so good. Mark's lucky. Mark's pale face seemed to get a bit better. I brought the leftovers, not wanting to waste them, so I offered them to Mark. I brought the leftovers for Mark, I said slowly. The assistant was stunned too. Mark's face turned livid. Get out. I enjoyed watching Mark, his angry face. Knowing he was unhappy, I felt at ease. I turned and left the room. Just then, I saw someone at the door, a tall guy with a face that rivaled Mark's. I knew him. Ethan, Mark's archenemy. He looked very refined, but was a total scumbag. Whatever Mark liked, Ethan had to take it. Ethan had tried to be Lily's backup for a while. Later, after I married Mark, Ethan tried to hit on me too. Sometimes, I even wondered if Ethan liked Mark himself. I stared at him, eavesdropping. Ethan nonchalantly replied, "How is it eavesdropping when I'm listening out in the open?" Lily, making that guy so mad feels good. Huh. I looked at him blankly. Stop calling me that. It's disgusting. Get lost, Lily. Why are you suddenly so hot-headed? But his eyes filled with an inexplicable tenderness. That's the you I know. What he said was so baffling. I just thought he was being slick and stepped right on Ethan's foot, hearing him yelp in pain. I left satisfied. I'm definitely getting a divorce from Mark. Plus, I want an extra $2 million. I'm dragging this out just to discuss Mark and Anna. But the child in my belly, I hesitated for a few days and finally decided to get rid of it. I made an appointment and went to the hospital for a series of tests. The doctor looked at the report. Lily, your physical condition, you can't have an abortion. I was shocked. Actually, last night I dreamt about that book again. In the dream, I was like a reader, flipping through the book. Mark was the male lead, Anna the female lead, Ethan the villain. Ethan's end was miserable after bankruptcy, reduced to picking up trash on the streets. As for the abortion, it was exactly like the plot in the book. The doctor also told me I couldn't have an abortion. If I insisted, it could be life-threatening. I was already a bit hesitant anyway. After all, this is my bloodline. With the doctor saying this, I decided to keep the baby. However, I'm not going to give the baby to Mark and Anna like in the book. I'll raise the child on my own. As soon as I walked out of the doctor's office, I saw Ethan again. Ethan looked at me, then glanced at the obstetric sign. Lily, you're pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? I could have come with you to the hospital. I'm busy, but I'd always make time for you and the baby, Ethan said with deep emotion, his words filled with hidden meanings. I stepped on Ethan's foot again, this time grinding my heel. Watching his handsome face twist in pain, I left satisfied. Joy turned to misfortune. Maybe it was seeing Ethan suffer. I got too happy and accidentally fell down the steps. Instinctively, I held my belly. Vaguely, I felt someone rush towards me. Then, I was picked up. Doctor, come quickly. It seemed like Ethan's voice, but why did he sound so anxious? I fainted shortly after. When I woke up, I saw Ethan sitting by my bed. He was on a low stool with his long legs awkwardly placed. Noticing I woke up, Ethan narrowed his eyes at me. Awake, Lily. Do you have an underdeveloped cerebellum or something? Can't even walk without falling. Ethan mocked me mercilessly. I was sure that the Ethan who anxiously called for the doctor was just my imagination. Suddenly, Ethan's demeanor changed. Lily, your face looks terrible. Are you hurt? Let me blow on it for you. In that instant, a figure stepped between us. Mark grabbed Ethan's hand, his face extremely ugly. This is my wife, Mark said coldly, trying to crush Ethan with his gaze. So Lily has a husband. I thought she came alone for a checkup because her hubby was dead, Ethan retorted. Mark pressed his lips together and glared at Ethan. Ethan wasn't afraid at all. Get lost, Mark said coldly. Mark, all you can say is that one word. Are you a broken record? Ethan mocked him, pushing Mark to the brink of explosion before finally leaving. My mood lifted. Even though Ethan is annoying, He's kinda cute when he angers Mark. Mark suddenly glared at me, his face extremely displeased. I touched my face and realized I was smiling. Ethan wants everything of mine. He's good to you because you're my wife. Don't flatter yourself, Mark said coldly. At that moment, a brilliant idea popped into my head to really piss off Mark. With a troubled expression, I said, "What should I do? I think I've fallen for Ethan." "Mark, he'll sign the divorce papers when I get back." Sure enough, my words made Mark's face turn ashen. Back home, I searched for the divorce papers but couldn't find them. I called Mark. "Where are the divorce papers?" There was a pause on the other end before he spoke. "I don't know." Having been with Mark for 3 years, I knew him well. He was lying. He hid the divorce papers. He had forced me to sign them and was now hiding them, so I couldn't. Seems like Mark doesn't care for Anna that much, after all. For the sake of his pride, he chose not to divorce for now, but I didn't mind. Mark won't hold out for long. In the following days, I carried on with life, eating and drinking as I pleased. I also planned my post-divorce life. I'll find a small town, open a little shop, and live a simple life. Suddenly, I got a call from my mom asking me to come home. When I returned, I saw my mom, dad, and Anna all sitting there looking serious. As soon as they saw me, my mom came over and grabbed my hand. "Lily, I know you haven't been happy these years with Mark. He treats you poorly, like a maid." She looked heartbroken. I suddenly wanted to laugh, so she knew all along. I used to think she just didn't care, like when Anna got a small bump, they rushed her to the hospital. But I had a fever all night and no one noticed. What's worse, she knew but didn't care. Both daughters. But Anna was her precious treasure, while I was just a burden. "Lily, maybe you should get a divorce." If she's suggesting a divorce, it's definitely not for my sake. She must have other motives. I glanced at Anna. "Yeah, Mark never liked you anyway. Why torture each other?" Anna said. I spoke up. "Mark likes you. So, Anna, you mean we get divorced? And you marry Mark?" Anna didn't respond, but it was clear that's what she meant. I looked at my mom and dad. They clearly had the same idea. No expectations, no disappointment. I rubbed my belly. "If we get divorced, what happens to my child?" "Lily, stop pretending. The child isn't Mark's. Mark didn't call you out to save face, so don't push your luck," Anna said bluntly. Looks like Anna couldn't wait. 5 million, I whispered. Anna froze for a moment. "What? Give me 5 million?" An ill-divorced Mark. Mom and Dad spoiled Anna. Everything in Lily's house was meant for her. 5 million was nothing to her. I had to raise my child alone. The more money, the better. When Mark finds out he was sold for 5 million, he'd be pissed. Anna gritted her teeth and nodded. "Call Mark over." Then, Anna made a call. Mark came quickly. "Mark, where's the divorce agreement?" I asked. Mark glared at me. "You're in such a hurry to be with Ethan." "Yeah, I can't wait. Even if I could, the baby can't. Let's get divorced, Mark." Mark pressed his lips together, clearly not wanting to divorce. "Lily, since you insist on a divorce, just go through with it," Anna said. Mark called his secretary. Soon the divorce agreement arrived. I signed it swiftly. "Mark, remember, I'm the one who doesn't want you. Also, remember to send the breakup fee to my account." I signed and walked away without looking back. Mark, goodbye. I wandered aimlessly down the street. I thought I wouldn't feel sad, but my heart felt empty, like a wind blowing through a hollow space. I had already lost faith in Mark. From today, I not only lost Mark, but also my family. Actually, they never cared about me. Today I realized this fact. No one loves me. No one cares about me. I'm just an insignificant side character. Suddenly, a Maybach stopped in front of me. The door opened, and a long leg stepped out. It was that refined rogue, Ethan. Ethan got out and blocked my path. "Divorced!" I glared at him. "How did he get the news so quickly? Anna told me." "Lily, now no one can stop us from being together," Ethan said passionately. "You're crazy. You did all this to get back at Mark, being pregnant, wanting to be a stepdad. Mark's kid calling me dad. Just thinking about it feels good." Ethan rubbed his chin. "All right, it's clear now Ethan is indeed crazy." I walked past him. Ethan followed, continuing to tell me the benefits of marrying him. I was speechless, but it did ease my heartache a little. I left the city where I had lived for over 20 years and moved to a small town thousands of miles away. New people, new places. Everything was fresh. I wanted a fresh start, but as soon as I got off the plane, I saw a familiar figure. Ethan was standing there smiling at me. "What a coincidence, Lily. You didn't follow me, did you?" He said, saying exactly what I wanted to say. I arrived at the house I had bought online. As I was about to enter, the opposite door opened. Ethan's face appeared, looking exaggerated. "Lily, you're living opposite me, still saying you're not stalking me. Just admit you're into me." I entered and slammed the door, making a loud bang. The house was moving and ready. A cleaning service had already tidied up, so I just did a little organizing and sat down. When my phone rang, I picked it up and hung up immediately. It was Mark's number. "Wrong number." I blocked it. Soon after, another unfamiliar number called. "Lily, I'm Mark's friend. Mark got drunk. Can you come pick him up?" Before, when Mark got drunk from social events, no matter how far, I'd go to pick him up. But now we were divorced. Call his secretary. I sat and hung up, blocking that number too. The blacklist now had 2 people, and it was just the beginning. In the following days, people around me kept calling. Mark kept saying he was in the hospital with a stomach ache or that he had a cold, even bizarre things like Mark crying because he missed me. Such nonsense. I had already set him and Anna up, so I suspected they weren't letting me move on. I changed my number and created a new account. Finally, I had some peace. I opened a flower shop downstairs. "Welcome." I looked up and rolled my eyes. Ethan, dressed in a suit and wearing gold-rimmed glasses, looked very refined. Ethan picked a bunch of roses. "$99. I told him the price. After he paid, he handed me the flowers. I didn't take them. He put them in the vase on the counter himself. Ethan was persistent. He really went out of his way to replace Mark as a father. Quite fitting for the main villain in the story. And no wonder Mark made him pick up trash. At first, I refused. Later, I got numb. He could do whatever he wanted. "Lily, your flowers have arrived," I heard someone shout and rushed out to get them. Suddenly, a car swerved out of control and came straight at me. In that instant, my mind went completely blank until someone pushed me to the ground. It took me a while to realize what had happened. It was Ethan, always the neat freak, even when taking out the trash. But now, his gold-rimmed glasses were gone and his hair was a mess. He looked awful, yet somehow I felt closer to him. "Ethan, get up." "Are you hurt?" I asked anxiously. "I'm not as clumsy as you. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. A little car can't hurt me," he said with a smirk. Ethan sat up, his handsome face twisted in pain. "I think my leg's broken." I quickly called an ambulance. While waiting, I saw his twisted leg and got so flustered my eyes turned red. "It's just a small injury. I won't die," Ethan said, acting nonchalant. Suddenly, he looked confused. "Why are you crying, Lily? Don't cry. I'm really okay. Look, I can jump." He tried to get up. I held him down. "If you move, you'll cry even harder." He immediately stopped moving. At the hospital, the doctor treated Ethan's wound and ran some tests. Luckily, it was just his leg, and it wasn't very serious. Just a minor surgery and a 3-month recovery. I stayed with Ethan during the surgery. I hired a nurse for him. I visited him every day with homemade food. The same guy who wanted to jump earlier now lay in bed like a sick, fragile beauty. "Lily, I want some water." "Lily, my hand hurts." "Feed me, Lily." "My shoulders are sore." "Massage them." I tried to ignore him. His handsome face wrinkled in pain. "My leg hurts, and for whom did I get hurt?" I sat by his bed and massaged his shoulders. That's when Mark walked in. He knocked hard on the door of the room. I looked up and saw his face, dark with anger. He looked much more weathered and tired than the last time I saw him. Mark didn't say a word. He just grabbed me and pulled me outside. "Mark, take your filthy hands off my girlfriend." Ethan shouted, "Let go or I'll fight you." Ethan struggled to get out of bed. "Stay in bed. If you get up, no dinner for you," I warned. "I'll talk to Mark for a bit. He'll be right back." Ethan obediently laid back down. Mark's face darkened even more. He took a deep breath to control his anger. We stepped outside. I looked at him. Did you come to invite me to your wedding with Anna? I'm not interested in attending an ex's wedding. I didn't marry Anna, Mark said. His voice was hoarse. Then what do you want? Mark didn't respond. I got impatient and turned to go back in. Lily, let's get back together. Mark finally said, I've been thinking about you all this time. I dream about you. I realize now I love you. Losing you made me see my feelings clearly. Mark's voice turned hurtful. Why didn't you take my calls? Even when my secretary called, you didn't pick up. Someone as proud as Mark saying such things must have taken a lot of courage. But I wasn't touched. In fact, I found it laughable. Sorry, I don't love you anymore. I have someone I like now. Please don't bother us. Mark got anxious. Lily, don't trust Ethan. He doesn't love you. He's just competing with me. I sneered. When I was sick and called you, you said you had to work overtime. A few days ago, when I almost got hit by a car, Ethan shielded me without thinking about his safety. Do you think you're in any position to say Ethan doesn't love me? Mark was stunned and speechless. Mark, we're divorced. There's no going back. Go find your Anna, I said and turned to enter the room. Mark stood there, looking like a lost child, unsure of what to do, but I felt no pity. Everyone has to face the consequences of their choices and actions. He's 26, not 6. No one stays in one place forever. No one will always tolerate him. Once you miss your chance, it's gone. Back in the room, Ethan's loud voice greeted me. Lily, my leg hurts. Come kiss it. A kiss will make it better. I grabbed his ear. Ouch, I meant my face, not my lips. Not in front of everyone. A week later, Ethan got discharged. I hired a nurse to take care of him for 3 months. I often visited him. After 3 months, according to the doctor, he should be able to walk freely, but his recovery was oddly slow. He'll wail if his foot touches the ground. Something was off. He had a lean, muscular build. Once I accidentally saw his 8-pack abs. He clearly worked out regularly. How could someone in such good shape not recover in 3 months? Lily, my legs are so sore. Come and massage them, Ethan said, as usual. Suddenly, I clutched my stomach. Ethan jumped up saying, as usual, I suddenly clutched my stomach. Lily, what's wrong? Stomach ache? It'll take you to the hospital? I glared at him. Ethan instantly realized he was busted. He started grinning. Oh man, how did my legs suddenly get better? Is this the power of love? I reached out and pinched his ear. Ethan stayed with me through checkups and delivery. On the day the baby was born, he was clumsy but careful around the baby. Come on, sweetie, say daddy. I was a new mom, pretty clumsy myself. Ethan grew alongside me. A few days later, he was already good at changing diapers. When the baby turned 1, the first word they learned was mama. The second word was dada. Ethan was happy the whole day. It was the first time I saw someone so enthusiastic about being a dad to someone else's kid. When the baby turned 2, I got together with Ethan. When the baby turned 3, Ethan and I got married, and the baby was our flower girl. This wedding was very low-key. We only invited Ethan's close family and friends. Ethan put the wedding ring on my finger. I turned my head and vaguely saw a figure in the crowd. I was stunned for a second. Quickly, I snapped out of it and smiled happily at Ethan. I am so lucky to have someone who loves me in this life. I walked out of the chapel. In the corner, there were 2 figures, one big and one small. I nervously walked over. Mark was handing a candy to the chubby little kid. The cute little kid hadn't fully grown into their features yet, but they looked a lot like Mark, a mini version of him. The little one didn't take the candy. With a childish voice, they said, Mommy and Daddy said not to take things from strangers. Mark stiffened, and his eyes visibly reddened. I held the little one's hand. Ethan walked over too. I handed the little one to Ethan. Go play with Daddy. Ethan was a bit reluctant. Watching Mark warily, I gave him a reassuring look. Only then did Ethan take the little one away. Lily, Mark has aged a lot in these 4 years. He didn't marry Anna. Anna went back abroad, got back together with her ex, and they kept tormenting each other. Mark never got married. I heard he drinks a lot and lives a very wasted life. His career took a nosedive too. Maybe it was the butterfly effect. I didn't choose to be a sacrificial saint. So everything changed and didn't follow the novel's plot. That kid, Mark's voice was a bit rushed. It doesn't matter anymore. Mark, don't show up in front of me again. Otherwise, you'll never find me. After I said that, I turned and walked away. The man behind me let out a sob. I didn't look back. I took one step at a time towards my love. I thought about the first time I met Ethan. It wasn't long after my new marriage with Mark that he stopped me. Miss, didn't we know each other in a past life? Those memories, which I once found absurd and buried deep, turned sweet as I stayed with Ethan. I often teased him about it, calling him cheesy. Ethan would always grab me and kiss me until I was out of breath. Lily, actually, we did meet in a past life. You forgot, but it's okay. I remember it. Ethan's epilogue. My name is Ethan. I had a childhood sweetheart named Lily. We grew up together. Same kindergarten, same elementary, same high school. When we got to college, she enrolled in a school in the South. She had excellent grades. No matter how hard I tried, I could only get into a school in the same city as hers. Two schools, one in the South, one in the North. I often took a few hours bus ride to see her. As long as I could see her, those hours didn't matter. In junior year, I saw her less because I started a business to make money. I wanted to propose after graduation so we could have a small home in that city. I got lucky. A big company took interest in my project. By graduation, I had saved enough to buy a house. When I brought the engagement ring to propose to her, I watched as a big truck hit her. My world turned red. Even watching them cover her with a white sheet, I couldn't believe she was gone. I searched for her everywhere. Friends said I was crazy. I knew I wasn't. I was certain my girl was out there, waiting for me somewhere. I searched every city. Then one day, I couldn't go any further. I lay down in the woods, letting the leaves fall on my face. My vision blurred, vaguely. The bright sunlight seemed to form a familiar figure. My girl reached out to me. She came to get me. I smiled. When I woke up, I was in a luxurious bed. I was me, and yet not me. I'm Ethan, born to one of the city's two major families. I had an archenemy named Mark. My life goal seemed to be to make Mark's life difficult. If Mark was upset, I was happy. I always felt like I had forgotten something important. Until one day, I saw a girl staring softly at Mark. She felt inexplicably familiar. My legs moved on their own. Miss, didn't we know each other in a past life? The girl glared at me and ran away. Those lost memories began to come back. Joy bubbled up inside me. It spread through my whole body. I felt like I could fly. I found my girl.